All right, good morning everybody. Welcome to another round of coffee and questions. What's today's topic? We're going to talk about finishing again. This is a project I have that's spinning on the lathe, and I've been sanding on this with 150 grit, and I'm getting out all the tool marks. I'm getting out all the previous grits marks. Now where I started with this, because the wood, it's kind of punky in some areas. It's like real loose, and it's an open grain kind of a wood. It's mesquite. So what I did is I started off with 80 grit here, and I power sanded with my hook and loop on a drill. Got it down pretty good, and then I turned around and then I went from 80 grit to 150. Now from 150 I'll go to 220, but right now I'm at 150 and I haven't decided on the final finish yet, but I'm sure the title of the video will tell you. But for right now, what I've decided to do is I sanded this now with 150. Now when I went from 80 grit to 150, I stopped the lathe, I cleaned it off, I sanded with the grain, and it doesn't take that long, and then I cleaned it off, and then I went to 150. Now, I did do some power sanding with the hook and loop, and then I switched over to doing this by hand, and I'm not going to wipe it off right now. I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to use Zinseer. It's a sanding sealer, it's Seal Coat. You can get it at the big box stores. Actually, you can use any finish you want. I mean, to do what I'm going to do. I just happen to have the sanding sealer around, and you can put lacquer over it. You can put polyurethane over it, you know, wax, whatever you want to do. And sometimes as a seal coat, I've used lacquer, and I just cut it 50%. So you could do a multitude of ways of sealing it, but like I said, I've got the Zinseer Seal Coat, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to put 2 or 3 coats on here, and the first one is going to just suck in and dry fast. I'll show you. I'm going to let that dry. Then I'm going to do it again, and hopefully some of that sanding dust worked its way into the pores, and the sanding sealer will lock it in. And then I'm going to cut it back. I'm going to sand it back with 150 again, and I might put another coat or 2 on there. I don't know yet. Right now I'm going to let this dry. It'll dry in a matter of like 5 or 10 minutes. Then I'm going to put the second coat on. I'm going to let it dry again, maybe 20-30 minutes, whatever it takes. I'll put the third coat on, and then I'll turn around and we'll start sanding again with the 150. Now some people in the forum said, well, they never put on more than 2 coats. Well, you could put on as many as you want, and you could actually use the sanding sealer as your final finish. I mean, it looks good. You just have to put on more coats than normal that you would with shellac, but you know, it works. Okay, I'll see you in a couple of minutes. Put that next coat on. Okay, time's gone by, and we're going to put that second coat on. I haven't done anything. And this is going to go on a little bit smoother and easier. The first one, because it sucks it in right away, you can feel it drying under the applicator. In this case, I'm just using a piece of an old t-shirt. Alright, there's the second coat. Now let that sit for 30 minutes, maybe a little bit longer. I have other stuff that I'm working on, and I'll come back to it. And let's see how this turns out. Okay, so I put 3 coats of that Zinseer Seal Coat on here. And it's a little rough, but remember, we stopped at 150. So I'm going to go over this with 150 right now. It's been drying for probably 2 or 3 hours. I had some other stuff to do. So right now I'm just cutting it back, sanding it back. Now you could use a power sander, but I chose, it's not a big project, so I just do it by hand. Alright, I'm going to blow it off. Okay, and then I sanded with the grain. I blew it off. Now I'm going to go to 220. That was 220. I'm going to blow it off. Blow it off real good. Now you don't have to go to 400. I'm going to use Seal Coat as the final finish on this because people said, well, it's just a seal coat. It's just meant to fill pores. Well, it's actually kind of a diluted shellac, and actually it penetrates really well into this particular wood. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to use it for, my top finish. And then when I'm done, I'll go over it with steel wool, and I'll probably put a coat of wax on it. But let's see where we go from here. Now this is 400. Now you don't need to go to 400. You could have stopped at 320. It's a film finish, really, so if it was an oil finish, I would keep going up through the grits, probably to 1,000, maybe more. Wet sanding, but it's not. This is going to be, like I said, a film finish. So 400 is pretty good, and when I get done with the 400, I will go with the grain. I'll stop and hand sand with the grain. It just takes a few minutes, and it helps to get out some of those ultra-fine scratches, and it'll make your finish look a lot better. So whether you stopped at 320, whether you stopped at 220, you want to sand with the grain because it helps improve your finish when you're done. So anyway, all right, let's wrap this here. And we'll put that seal coat on and we'll see what it looks like. Now I'm thinking I'm going to probably put on 3 or 4 coats of that, and I'll denib it in between, and I'll explain that as we go forward. But right now, let's just finish up the sanding part of this. Now I go around it, like I said, and I sand it with the grain, especially now on the 400. I try to do that on the previous grits also. Like I said, it will help your finish. So be back with you in a sec when I get this done, and I'm going to clean it off, and then we'll put the seal coat on. Okay, I got the seal coat right here. Old t-shirt here, get this wet. Now this first coat, just like before, it's probably going to go off and it's going to dry real fast, so that's okay. And like I said, we can always do a little denibbing if it's got dust particles or anything, kind of funky on it, but we'll see. Right now, if you're starting to feel it drag, just get this little t-shirt thing wet again. And just put it on there, just like that. Probably 15-20 minutes, I'll be back with you. And we'll feel it, and then we'll put on, like I said, another 2 coats. Now I'll probably lightly steel wool in between. We'll find out with 4/0 steel wool to help build the finish to where it's nice and smooth and it doesn't have any roughness to it. But I'll be back with you here in a minute when it dries. Okay, time's gone by, and now we have 2 coats on there. It feels a little tiny bit rough, but it's not bad. I'm in kind of an environment where I didn't pick up much of anything. Oh, we'll steel wool it lightly. Don't press real hard with this, you don't need to. Just go over it lightly. Kind of rub it real quick with the grain, just a habit that I'm in. Okay, now that feels pretty close to almost glass. I got a little roughness right in here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I'm going to wipe it off with a paper towel. Okay, this will be coat number 3. Now I'm going to let this sit and dry longer. I've got other things going on, and I can see it's built up a little bit thicker in certain areas right in through here. It's not a big deal. We're going to go over it with steel wool again. But if you needed to, you can just apply some more to it like this and just leave it alone. You could also use some mineral spirits, but that's going to start to thin it out, so I don't do that. On some projects I will mix mineral spirits and this seal coat 50-50 because it gives it a deeper penetration into the wood. But on this project we didn't do that. I didn't really think it was necessary, so because it's already a very nice color. Alright, let's let that dry. I'll be back with you probably, I'm going to let it sit for about an hour, maybe two, and then I'll be back. Okay, it's been almost 2 hours. This is really dry, but I can see marks in it where, like I said, it was probably on too thick. So this is the third coat. Steel wool it, get rid of those run marks, or where there, where there was too much of it that I put on with a towel rag. Each time in between things when I stop this, I use my reading store glasses. See the white, it's coming off. I use the reading store glasses to take a close look at this. I want to keep everything as perfect like as I can, and if there's any like sags, runs, any kind of weird thing that I need to do something about, I know it before I get to that final finishing part. Okay, all those runs, sag marks, all that are all gone. And if you see some bright spots, you can just individually hit it like this, which I should go with the grain anyway, which I'll do. It's fast, it's easy to do. Yeah, this looks real good. And we haven't even put anything on top of this yet. I'm going to still put one or maybe two more coats. And we'll see, but I definitely am going to put another coat on here. Yeah, that looks really good right now. So now the interesting thing about shellac and lacquer, each coat you put on kind of burns into the previous coat. So it can be a little forgiving, I mean, depending on, what the error is that you see in the wood. But okay, let's clean this off. Let's put the next coat on. I try not to go back and forth over this. Try to either go once, twice if necessary, and then leave it alone and just let it dry. Right now it looks real even, it looks real good, so let's see how this goes, and I'll be back with you. Again, I'll probably wait a couple of hours just to be on the safe side. Other things going on, but you can always come over, touch it, and you'll know. And when you go to put the steel wool, or if you're using 400, 600 sandpaper, whatever you're using, if you get like that white little dusty kind of stuff off of it, you know that it's dry. You'll also know if it's not dry because it'll grab the finish and you'll have a mess on your hands. So that's why I always give it plenty of time to dry. All right, be back with you in a little bit. Okay, it's been several hours and it still looks pretty good. I'm going to use the 4/0 steel wool and kind of denib it here. Now you could leave it just like it is, but I'm going to put another coat on. Wipe it down first. Alright, that looks pretty even, looks pretty good. This will be the last time now. I'm going to let this sit on here, and I'll come back and I'll show you how we'll finish this up. But this looks really good. Alright, be back with you in a little while. Alright, good morning everybody. We're back at it. So this is where we are with those several coats of that Zinseer Seal Coat. And now I'm looking at this and I do see some lines in this. So what I'll do right now before I put on the final coat of coats, and I'll explain that to you in a minute, is I've got some 4/0 steel wool, and I just simply go like this with the grain, and it will get rid of any of those light swirls that might be in your finish here. So let's go over that, and then I'll explain to you from there. And I do this very lightly, and I'm going to tell you why in a second. This is just to get down any high spots, to get off any nibs if there happens to be any. Very lightly. I got my reading store glasses, and I got decent lighting above me, although the camera may not really show it that well. I do have adequate lighting, and with the reading store glasses, of course, it magnifies and I can really take a close look. Okay, now I went over this lightly for a reason. Okay, now I'm going to clean this off. And it still has a nice finish to it. You could leave this alone, part it off, and finish the bottom. And this is nice. It almost feels like glass on here. And this is just with that seal coat finish. So the seal coat itself could end up being your final finish. But I'm going to apply some wax to it with steel wool. Let me show you. I've got a tub here, small tub. You get these at the dollar store. You get them in packets of 10 or whatever. They're great because I can mix up something I'm trying for the first time, use it, throw it out, or I can again continue mixing it, and it's got a little lid to it. Now in this container I have some paste wax, and I probably put in about, well, let's say 8 or 9 drops, somewhere in there, just a little bit of boiled linseed oil, and then I put in just a little bit of mineral spirits. And what it has the consistency of, see if I can show this right here, is like almost like a real thick kind of peanut butter. And I've got my 4/0 steel wool, and I'm going to load this up. And I do a 2-step process with this, which is a little bit different than what most people do. I'll show you. First I put this on all over it. I just rub it in for a few seconds here on the inside. And I'm going to show you a little trick I do here on the outside, and it actually helps out quite a bit. Now I've got some Scotch-Brite laying around, and I've got, like, the red is coarse, the darker gray is kind of like a fine, the light gray is like an ultra fine. I got a drill here, and I got my hook and loop. These are real cheap. Right here, I'll leave you the link below. I think they're currently on sale, and they work great. And when I ruin these, or if I do, I get new ones. But I'm going to put this piece on here with this Scotch-Brite, so it looks like this. So watch this. And if you want to, just load it up some more. It's not going to hurt anything. I just put a bunch of this on there. Put it on there, like I said, it's got a little bit of BLO in it. It has a little of the mineral spirits. Now you can use Howard's. Let me show you a picture. I mean, that's another great, I think, wax oil combination. I mean, to put on wood turnings. We'll do that in a future one. I think that works real well. The Howard's is also very inexpensive. Okay, let's go back to this. And it comes right off of the hook and loop. You can feel it starting to pull against this. It's drying. I just go over it really good, work in the areas that I wasn't able to get to with the hook and loop on the power part of it, but I work it in real good, and I do press down pretty firmly when I'm doing this. I mean, just to give you an idea, and I can feel the wax as it's drying, like pulling me. And I just keep going over those areas. Okay, now what I do, I really crank the lathe speed up. Now, some people say this is a waste of time. Well, I don't know. It's what works for me, I guess. And I always am trying different ways of doing things and looking at the results. Now, the other thing I will do is I keep notes on things so that I know if something turns out like spectacular or really well, I know how to duplicate that process again. But this is one using, the Zinseer and multiple coats, not just the 2 recommended. And then I denib in between And like you see, I'm topping it off with the wax finish, and now I'm going at a very high speed and working it in. And I'm still pressing down fairly firmly, and I just keep working it in. I mean, you could spend as much time as you want doing this. There's no time limit. I don't even think about the time. I just keep working it in. Okay, let's take a look at it. Yeah, it looks a little dull and hazy, but it's still very nice. Now let's leave this alone for about 15 minutes, and I'll be back with you, and I'll show you what we're going to do as the final step, or steps. Still got a couple left. And I do rub in with the grain afterwards. I shouldn't have paused the video because it makes it look like I left this step out. I actually didn't. This is not something you have to do probably, but it's just something that I do. Just go over it real well like this, and we're going to let it dry for a bit, of course. All right, about 20 minutes has gone by. Now let's just start using, I use an old t-shirt, cotton, small piece. Like I said in previous videos, I never bring a large rag up to the lathe. You'll hurt yourself. So I just take my time, and we're going to buff this out. Now you can feel it grabbing. It's taking all that old wax off of there. I'm still pressing pretty firmly on this. Not super hard, but I mean firm. And you can see right there, it's got all that white powder on there. Now, I always flip it over to another clean surface. And I do it again. Crank the lathe speed up. And you can feel it getting a little warm, even if the cloth is doubled and tripled. And I want it to do that. And this is the third time you can see I'm doing this, but I want to make sure I get off all that residue. Smooth as glass, and it's a semi-gloss finish now. Okay, that's it for this project. All I got to do is reverse it, take the bottom off, put coats of that Zinseer Seal Coat on the bottom, you know, denib it, play around, put a coat of wax on there like we did here, and the project's done. And this is a simple finish. Alright folks, I hope you click subscribe. I hope you keep following me on the Home Handyman, and I've got more tips and tricks to show you, upcoming videos about doing different types of finishing. So I'll talk to you then. Have a great day. Bye-bye.